friends, it's Christy, and I'm thrilled to be back guest designing with my favorite things. Today I'm going to be making a card using the brand new Meow Mix stamp set. I love these kitties, so cute. And I'll also be adding in images from Beautiful Day and Sending a Smile. For my pattern paper, I'll be using my absolute favorite 6x6, the Plaid patterns. So gorgeous. I stamped my images with black licorice hybrid ink on some Copic friendly cardstock, and I'm going to be using my pattern paper as my color inspiration. So I've got a little strip of it here, and I'm going to use that along with my Copic color chart to choose my color combinations. So I'll have this sitting off to the side right next to me throughout the coloring portion. The first combo I'll be using is YG61, YG63, and YG67. I'm using the YG67 to lay in my shadows, and I'm doing those close to the stem of the flower. And then I'm going to blend towards the outer edge of the leaves with the YG63 and use the YG61 as the highlight. The remaining 3 sets of leaves I colored in with YG01 and YG05. I also had the YG03 there, but when I went to use it, it started coloring funny. I think it was running a little dry, so I decided to just skip it and use the darker and lighter shades. Since it's such a small area, I could get away with just the 2. For my blue combo, I'm using B21, B23, and B26. I'm using the B26 for my darkest, and I'm coloring in the bottom of this more ornate flower, and then the 2 smaller bluebells, or whatever you want to call them, with the style of this illustration. They could really be anything you want them to be. So I'm blending out with the B23 and using the B21 as my highlight. I colored in some of the details on my other flowers. And now I'm moving on to my bluebird. I want my bluebird to be just a little bit darker than the other flowers, so I'm going to be a little more heavy-handed with that B26. I'm adding quite a bit more shadow than I did on the others, and then blending out with the B23, and then leaving just a small area, mostly on his face and the tip of his wings, for that B21. My pink combo is RV21, RV23, and RV25. And again, I'm going to color various accents of the different flowers with those 3 shades. I'm also going to color this larger flower in the center, and I just kept the darkest color concentrated right towards the center of the flower and blended towards the edges with the lighter shades. I also colored in the kitty's nose and ears with that RV23. And I'm going to use that combo on my butterfly as well. So I'm using the RV25 towards the inside of its wings and blending out with the RV23 and saving the RV21 for the tips so I have a nice highlight. I wanted a peach shade that would match the pattern paper and also match the cardstock that I'll be using to create the card base. So for that I'm using YR01, YR02, and YR04. I'm using that YR04 as my darkest. I colored in the bird's beak with that, and I'm using just the darker 2 shades for the flower centers, and then I'll use all 3 shades on this other flower here. To finish off the flowers, I wanted a pale aqua color, so I'm using B00, B00, and B02. And I'm going to use that to finish up the different flowers, and I'm also going to use those shades to color in the daisy looking flower that's on the far right. I wanted to use a color combo for the kitty that would make him stand apart but also match with the other colors. I didn't want to add any more brightness into my color palette since I have a lot going on with those flowers. So I decided to do him in some warm grays. I'm using W00, W1, and W3. I use the W3 as my shadow, concentrating it mostly down towards the bottom and alongside the edges of his body to give him that rounded appearance. And then I'm blending towards the center with that W1 and the W00, which is going to help it fade into white in the middle. I wanted to give him some stripes, so I'm just doing a few little triangle shapes coming in from the outside edge, pointing towards the center down both sides of his body, and then I'll do a couple on his forehead as well. I used the RV10 to add some rosy cheeks, and then I colored one additional of each of these flowers off camera and die cut them all out with the matching dies. So because the style of the images is so whimsical, I wanted to do something a little creative with the background as well. So I'm taking the Moroccan Mosaic stencil and I've taped that down to a piece of plain white cardstock with some painter's tape. And I'm using some distress ink in tumbled glass, and I'm just starting in the center and making circles so that it kind of fades out towards the outer edges. I don't want to cover the entire background. I just want to have a really subtle texture in the background with that darker center, and you can see how that looks when I peel off the stencil. I've trimmed that panel down with the A2 Stitch Rectangle STAX Set 2, so it has that nice stitching detail all around the outside edge. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment that says, "Thinking of Meow," with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. While I have my MISTI out, I'm also going to stamp the inside of my card. I like to do this. I think it just finishes them off nicely and carries a bit of the outside onto the inside. So I'm stamping out another cat and the butterfly and the sentiment that says, "Love you, meow, and forever," which I think is so adorable. I've die cut a strip of grass using the Grassy Hills Die-namics and some sour apple cardstock, and I've added a thin strip of foam tape to the back so I can adhere that down to my focal panel. And now I can bring in my images and begin to set my scene. I'm going to use a combination of liquid glue and foam tape to really add some dimension and create a nice full garden. I'm also going to be sure to stagger my flowers at different heights since that's more visually appealing. It kind of pulls your eye through the scene and makes it appear like there's more to look at and discover. I'll add a few of the flowers in front of the grassy border, and that's going to push the ones that are behind it back even further. I'll add my kitty front and center and tuck his tail behind the small blue flower just to integrate him a little bit better into the scene. And then I will add the bluebird to his immediate right. So in real life these two might be enemies, but on my card they're going to be friends. I can't help it. I'm a peacemaker at heart and I always want everybody to just get along, so at least I can make it happen on a card. I added my last set of blue flowers over on the far right, and now I'm just going to figure out where I want to add my butterfly, and I am popping her up with foam tape as well. And now I'm ready to assemble my card. I've added a piece of blue chevron from the Calm & Cozy Chevrons 6x6 pad, and I've trimmed out the edge with the stitch scalloped basic edges. There's a die set of 4, and I used the straight edge on that one. I also used the largest of the A2 stitched rectangle stacks for my plaid pattern, so it has that little bit of the edge with the peach Bellini cardstock showing through. And then I'm going to add my chevron down to the bottom half of the card. I've added some foam tape to the back of my focal panel, and I'm going to just line that up in the center and pop that down into place. As a finishing touch, I'm going to take some Crystal Stickles glitter glue and add a little bit here and there to the card. I like to use it just as an accent. This one has an iridescent sparkle to it, so it kind of takes on the color of whatever you put it over. So I added it to a couple of the flower centers and to the bird's wing and the cat's nose and the butterfly's wings and to a couple of the tips of the flowers. So just enough here and there that it catches your eye and so it really sparkles and shines when you tip it into the light. And that is going to complete our card for today. I'll give you guys another peek at the inside. I hope you enjoyed the June edition of Christy Gets Crafty with My Favorite Things. If you did, please be sure to give the video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. I love to read your feedback. Subscribe to My Favorite Things for more inspiring videos just like these here on screen. Bye-bye!